Welcome
I could put it up
everybody
for you.
to the Table Talk Radio Show. My name is Tanisha Simpkins. I'm the host of the Table Talk Radio Show. My co-host is Nathan Austin, Pastor Austin, that is Pastor A, and also Dr. Teresha Lee. And we have a returning guest, Mr. David Rosa Jr. How are you guys on tonight?
Doing all
Well, we're
right.
doing great. I'm
Well,
doing
thanks for
great.
having me back.
Can anybody hear me? Good, I'm good. And you, David?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me back. I'm glad to be on here with you all.
Awesome. And Teresha, you and the babies and husband.
We doing all right. We hanging in there.
I like that. We hanging in there. Awesome, awesome, guys. So I mean, we could get right into it. We only have an hour, and what the Table Talk Radio Show is about we are a talk forum, just candid conversation. We talk about politics, religion, education, anything you name it. We just put it on the table and we talk about. We are a Christian perspective show, so you won't expect certain things from us, but it might happen. I don't know. Depends on who's there, what you got to say. But thank you guys for joining us. Tune to us every Monday at 7 p.m. And you should at least see all of us or at least one of us. I just want to get right into it since we do have limited time. And it's something that has been circulating on the internet. And this young lady, I'm just going to give a little background about her. She was a student, something happened with her. She asked for the NAACP to help her out. They helped her out. They got her awarded a small amount of money. She thanked them. She was all for it. Then one day she felt like she woke up, as some people said. We say stay woke, but she woke up on another side. And this for me, I don't know if it's something against Black people, but it feels that way when you see her commentary or you hear her videos. Her name is Candace Owens, and I asked you, David, the question, and the question was why her voice doesn't matter. Why is it that her voice doesn't matter to right now Black Lives Matter, to right now what's going on when it comes to protests, when it comes to injustice for Black people? Why is it her voice really doesn't matter? And I put that question in. You could say it matters, but I feel like it doesn't matter, that it's a distraction. David, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I think you're
Perfect.
stuck or something.
Sorry, I think he said.
You're going in and out. Maybe you can
Sorry.
log out and log back in with the internet.
So sorry. Forgive me.
Try. Yeah, try. That's okay. Things happen. Try to do that. Log out and log back in, and see what happens. Well, thank you guys. So yeah, so this young lady, she's benefited. Candace Owens, she's benefited from the Black community. She benefited from NAACP. But now
I never
it's
heard of her
like,
until recently.
really,
Never heard of her.
yeah. She has a very persuasive voice. Now that I can say, she does have a very persuasive voice. But when you listen to it, it has a lot of hooks to it, where it says that we don't value this, or we shouldn't value what these people have to say. And she's one of those Black people who will say these people, or those people. And then, it causes such controversy. So now, just recently, her GoFundMe to politicize everything that she does and voice. I'm sure she get paid for her voice. It was taken down from them. They was like, because it was so much controversy. She did one video, and it said why she don't believe or support George Floyd and Trump, of course, number 45. Sorry for saying his name. number 45, he reposted it because it was such a benefit to him, his party, and his beliefs. And
Now,
I
what's
kept saying
GoFundMe
to people,
for?
why? I don't know what organization, girl. You know, everybody got to go fund me for something. For her organization, because she just came out with a book also. So that
Oh, okay.
was, some type of GoFundMe. But she made people feel like, what they're doing was wrong. Made them feel like they have occasion of how they feel. And if you're I don't want to say weak minded, but soft. You know how some people put these YouTube things and then they come back to you, well, they say the Bible ain't, all that stuff that you would believe it, you know. But that was one of the things, and I kept saying, when people posted, why y'all keep posting? Y'all saying don't do this or don't do that. But why do you keep, posting what she has to say? You know, but I was mad about it. But go ahead, David.
Yeah, can you
The
guys hear me
question
better now?
was why. Yeah, we can hear you better. Candace Owens, why her voice doesn't matter. And how do
Yeah,
you feel? Why doesn't her voice matter? And I'm saying that to you as you're part of her generation.
yeah. Um, my brother Rasul said this. He said, "Isn't it amazing that 99% of us can say, 'Get your knee off my neck,' and be ignored, but 1% can make a living off of saying there is no neck and be paid more attention to." Listen, people have itching ears and love hearing people they agree with. That's just the reality, right? We want to hear somebody that agrees with us so that they can substantiate our claims and so that we can feel good about ourselves. That's really all there is to Candace Owens, in my perspective. She's been sold and is being used by the dominant as a tool to try and trump black voices. Um, Here's a rule I try to live by. I try to live by this rule. If I don't know who you've studied under, if I don't know who you are accountable to and where you come from, then I don't have time to deal with you. It's an amazing thing we see more and more with the just with social media, and everybody could go on Wikipedia and Google and all this kind of stuff, where everybody has something to say, and we give everybody our ears. Listen, fam, we have to do better at vetting who we listen to. We got to do better at vetting the voices that we allow to influence us and our communities. I don't care if it's rappers, preachers, or politicians. Um, if I can't verify your work through proper research, if I can't verify what you're talking about and where you're coming from, I don't have any time for you. So as a Christian, we'll say you got to study to show yourself approved. That's the Bible. In the same way, it's for us to reject error and to establish truth. And I think we just seem to not have a good measuring rod in some ways for what's true and what's false. Anything that comes on our timelines, we start sharing. Right? It don't matter if we're talking the religious sector or the political sector. I keep seeing so many people. I'll be just sharing all type of things in the church world. We kind of
Right.
do a flight on words. We talk about meme theology. I don't know if y'all know about meme theology, right? So somebody post up a meme about whatever, trying to debunk Christianity or whatever, right? And then all of a sudden, everybody's sharing it. Everybody talking about these ideas that you can't verify for nothing. I still believe I'm a young guy, and maybe I'm part of her generation. But you see behind me, I got books on books on books, right? Because I studied. And you can't just tell me anything and then expect me to debate your idea. Hopefully, this makes sense. Everyone's idea worth, isn't worth debating. If somebody shares an idea that hasn't been researched at all, that we can't even know where their claim is coming from, there's too many substantive arguments to deal with, right? To be fooling around with arguments just about what I feel like or what I think. And in the case of this Candace Owens, what we know for sure is she's like another Donald Trump. One day Democrat, one day Republican, all this type of stuff here, right? until they find where they can make money. Like you already said, she
Right.
used the NAACP, right, to win that court case and get that money. We know this, right? She started that I forget how you say it, Blacksit or something like that, website, right? That was more liberal views. She was opposed to Trump and the Conservative Party just a couple of years ago. Now she's all of a sudden their spokesperson. Therefore, I can't trust you. What you say has no.
Very much
Why don't you?
spokesperson.
Yeah. So why she don't matter? She don't matter because it ain't nothing to her. We don't have enough credible information coming from her. She don't have a track record long enough and consistent to really give her the time of day. And so I know I'm going over my time, but what I just say to it is we got to get to a place where we're not just letting anybody and everybody influence us. You know, it's interesting because obviously we know that her platform, who are white people who want to hear what she's saying because that's what they think. We know that's her platform. Yeah, it's been interesting to see though. More and more people of color start falling into this idea of, oh man, she's deep. She's just saying things we don't want to say and all this kind of stuff because she's talking about this black on black crime stuff and all this type of stuff. I feel like I don't got no time to play with no black on black crime stuff. I mean, listen, we already know what it is. Of course, it's violence in our communities, like in everyone's communities. Ain't nobody talking about whether or not there's violence in our communities that we're bringing upon on ourselves. We're talking about is disparity, right? And so you got to deal with that, right? The rate at which people of color are being incarcerated, the rate at which people of color are falling in the hands of police brutality, etc. So all I'm saying is what she's saying, white folk have been saying, and the only reason why she has the clout she has right now is because white folk are using her as a pawn to try and trump black voices. But I think we do well when we say to white folk and people doing that, listen, I'm gonna take a page out of your book. She don't have no credibility. We don't know where she's coming from, and her logic is inconsistent. Therefore, we reject it, and so too should you by your own standards.
And we hit the gavel.
Yeah.
We hit the gavel. You have anything to say, Pastor A?
Well, I think David covered all the bases. The thing about a con is it needs enough truth in it to be believable. And what David was saying is correct. Because I tell people all the time, I try to watch, as he said earlier, I try to watch things that kind of contradict what I believe, just to kind of create my own internal balance. So I watch a lot of Fox News, and so I see a lot of Candace Owens. And so what I've noticed in just studying her in her presentation is she always brings enough facts so that it gets your attention. She always leaves out the critical and crucial details in the argument that kind of sways it. And so now in her position now, she's big on there's no racism. There's just, it's just economic, downturn, and it's more economics than racism. But what she failed to realize, the reason why there's such an economical imbalance is because of racism. And so those are the types of things that she kind of conveniently leaves out so that she can be enough black to say she's black, but speak enough of the other language to be persuaded in that direction. And he's absolutely right. She's worked for anybody who's paying. She's been on both sides of the spectrum. And, once Trump leaves office, she may find herself on another side. And so that's just who she is. And I've been kind of this question, something I've been saying internally with my wife. I'm kind of defriending a lot of people who are now falling for the rhetoric. I'm very disappointed and saddened that people that I consider to be my friends and smarter than that are now falling for it. But again, that's what a good con artist does. They give you just enough to make themselves believe.
Right. Like I said, she's persuasive, very persuasive to the ear. So let me ask you guys, let me ask Teresa a question. So when she talks about there's no racism, there's no this, but for us, there's privileges, in that world. And the question would be, because some people don't know, or some people don't know how we feel, as a Black community, how we define, white privileges. And I'm asking you, so how do we define woman, or as yourself, your own opinion, what is white privileges?
I think we all have privilege.
What do we?
So for her to say it doesn't exist is totally and completely false. And if you really take a look at your own opportunities in your own life, you'll see that there are some privileges and advantages that you have over other people. So to say it doesn't exist at all is ridiculous. There are numerous examples of what white privilege is. But for the sake of time, I'm only going to give you a couple. Okay. So one of the first ones is
Okay.
you have the option to participate in the conversation of race. If you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to. That's a white privilege. That's a privilege. I didn't have that privilege. I remember being nervous when my brothers got around police officers because they were always big men, and I didn't even know why. I wasn't quite sure, but I was just like, let us get out of here safe. And then I had the talk, and I said, oh, okay, this makes sense now why I was nervous. There's another one. There's the school I went to, Pastor David talked about having receipts, knowing who you studied under. Well, I had the privilege of studying at a university that has been called the Harvard of the South. Now, it doesn't need Harvard to in any way substantiate its significance. Fisk University stands alone and was taught one of the greatest scholars of our time, of our historic time, and that's W.E.B. Du Bois. W.E.B. Du Bois talked about two-ness. Two-ness is when you are raised and you can behave in one way around your friends and family, but then you have to put on a persona in society in order to succeed. If you have never heard of two-ness, have never felt like I can take off my mask now that I'm no longer at work, in public, or out with certain people, our lighter friends, that is a privilege. That is a white privilege. There's another one. I'm in this phase now with my friends. We're all having children. So we all have kids between 1 and 5. So of course, names come up. What are you going to name your child? How are you going to name them? If you have never had to sit and have a conversation with your significant other, your spouse, and say, I want to name them something that can get them a job. What? So I had to have the hard conversation with my friends and say, what you're doing is you're teaching your child before they even leave the womb that they are inadequate, that they have to hide their Blackness as long as they can, and then only show it when necessary, and hope by then that they fooled somebody into believing that they're white and they're intelligent and they're capable in order to get a job.
My.
That is a privilege. My name is unapologetically Teresha. Say it right now. Say it right. Okay, and my whole life I've never had a personalized license plate, pin, or anything else. That is a privilege. And I'll give you one bonus. Here's a bonus. To be poor, to be uneducated, to be depressed, to be oppressed is a disadvantage across the board, right? Regardless of your country, your home, your community, your color, it is a disadvantage. However, if you don't have to worry about your skin color contributing to that disadvantage, you, my good friend, are living under the awning of white privilege. That's all I got.
Wow. That's good. That's good. That's good. So you guys have heard, I mean, there's a whole lot of things that we can go down the line when it comes to white privilege, when it comes to our jobs, when it comes to trying to get a home, when it comes to, going to the bank, especially going to the bank when they, the first thing they look at is your name. If it's Lakeisha Simmons or Smith, or Rosie Perez, or, whatever the name may be, is I'm going to put this to the side and, I decide on before I even take a look or even write it or do the resources or whatever, it may be. Those are white privileges. And now we have these privileges where people just walking in the park and calling on the phone, the lady pretending, because it wasn't pretend that, She was in danger, or what was the one? There was something about the barbecue that time, and we got
Yes.
Karen that's out there. Use that name as a white privilege. It's absolutely crazy. I just seen one just recently, a video where a lady was in a supermarket, looked like a 7-Eleven, and she like, get out. Who are you? Like, what are you doing? Why do you feel like you have more privilege than me, and I'm spending the green dollar like you spending the green dollar? I'm living in the same house next to you. We might be paying the same amount of mortgage, but that privilege gets there where people feel like they can do and say anything. That's why I'm so glad, I'm so proud of what's going on right now, and that the young people are at the front of the line. You hear me? And I'm so glad that it did not stop. And this was last week I said that it has not stopped. It didn't stop like because it's the weekend. No, it's continuing. Something that we need, generations like just really, really doing it. Now, what we have to do is go ahead and, try to change some laws or some of the things. Nathan, what they're trying to do is defund the police. Defunding the police. It has some good merits and it has some maybe not so merits, and that's kind of like on both sides. And I'm asking you, how do you feel about it?
Well, defunding police is an interesting subject. I think, of course, the challenge is they want to defund police because of what's happening in the Black neighborhoods, predominantly in low economical neighborhoods. But on the flip side of that, defunding the police will only enhance the criminalization that's happening in those communities and in those neighborhoods. One of the things I think that needs to happen is that we have to find a way. Of course, we understand that our tax dollars pay for police. We know that certain communities, certain cities, they pay, for example, where I pastor in Pompano Beach, they at one point had their own police department many years ago, from what I understand, and then they signed a contract with BSO. So dollars always has a demand attached to it. I think instead of trying to defund the police, I think we need to do a better job with policing the police, demanding that and being able to dictate, dare I say, and control how our neighborhoods are being policed. That's one of the things that, hate to bring it up, but the things, the Parkland incident happened. And the reason why it was not a whole lot of hurry or swiftness from Parkland Police Department, from Parkland officers, because there were not a whole lot of Parkland officers, because they made it perfectly clear to the Broward County Sheriff's Office that they did not want their areas to be overly policed. So what happened when something happened? They didn't have any police available. They had to wait to, Coral Springs comes and all these areas come, because they demanded that they didn't want their area to be over policed, because when you have an over police area, property value goes down, and it all goes back to economics. I think what we have to be able to do is properly dictate and demand how our communities are going to be policed by making sure that in every city there is a community and citizens review board designed to look at and analyze cases where there is a case of police brutality or police misconduct. That way it gives us the opportunity to weed out the bad guys, because to be honest, when you say defund the police department and therefore there's either no police in the area or not enough, you have to know, even in good areas, crime is going to go up, because what ends up happening, criminals are smarter than we think. When they understand that there's no police, then they're going to make sure that they most crimes are crime of opportunity. And so I don't think that defunding is a good narrative right now, not only because of things I said, but also because I think it gives the Conservative Party gas. They are running out of steam. They are running out of gas. A lot of them are disassociating themselves from Trump. We're seeing it every day. Someone else is. Yesterday it was Colin Powell. Today has been Mitt Romney, and the list is going on and on. What this defunding of the police will do, it is going to give them a new talking point, and it's going to scare citizens back to where they're trying to get away from. So I don't think it's a good talking point right now for the Liberal Party, and I'm not necessarily in total agreement with it. I do think that we ought to be able to challenge it. I do think that in certain areas, hey, if you're not able to police our area properly, we'll go and put our resources somewhere else. But we must make sure that we have enough police, because all of us that are watching, all of us that's on this line today have had to use the police. And so we have to make sure that we understand that the police job is not to do what we've seen them do on national television. It is to help protect the citizens of this country, and we can still find a way to do that without necessarily defunding. That's my position.
It looks like Dr. Lee has something to say. She keep making these facial expressions, which
I'm trying to keep it straight. Thank you. Listen, so here's what I think. I think defunding the police may be a viable option. I don't have a strong yes or no in either way. Now here's why I say it may be a viable option. Because first of all, we have to stop being a society of reading headlines, and we need to become a society of reading books. The headline, defund the police, is scary. What? We don't have police? What if somebody tries to kill me, rape me, rob me? Oh my gosh. It's sensationalism, because nobody's clicking on the articles and actually reading. What does that mean? What we also know for sure is that more police in the community does not equal less crime.
I agree.
So having more police, or even the amount we have now, doesn't necessarily mean we're any safer than we are without them. Another thing, defunding the police means that you now have to find other means to source your income, which means you have to follow the rules, which means communities will begin to create their own police groups. Like you said, Pompano had one. What's the advantage of Pompano having its own police? Pompano knows Pompano. So we know that little Johnny with autism. Go ahead.
I say in Pompano's case, we don't want Pompano police, trust me. But anyway,
well,
go ahead.
I don't know Pompano well enough. I'm just going to use him as an example. Let's just use Sunshine City then. We won't say another certain community. But though that community knows its people. So when little Johnny goes out on the street and somebody says, hey, he's in the middle of the street, the police officer knows the community well enough to say, Johnny has autism. He doesn't understand commands. Let me call his mother, as opposed to killing someone working with an autistic child with his hands up in the air. Has that happened with police? It has. It has, unfortunately. So defunding them actually touches their pockets and makes them think, how can we appease the people and stop killing them? Because they're getting mad that we keep killing them. So we have to do something.
And
so
I agree with you.
It doesn't necessarily mean no police. It does mean we now have to come up with alternatives in how we raise money to pay our police officers and how we recruit our police officers. Because now we don't just have people sitting collecting checks thinking racist thoughts. Truth of the matter is, I can't control your thoughts. What I can control is your action. Right. You can think racist all day long. Just don't let you come from me and my family.
Right. Now, and I agree wholeheartedly. The problem is the defunding of the police that terminology came from Minneapolis and the city council, but they're literally talking about I saw an interview today with one of the city councilmen, woman, and they are saying literally that they want to get to a place where there are no police. And so I think somebody has taken that statement and kind of sensationalized it. But in that case, they really do mean no police. Now, in states like California and New York and other areas, they're talking about defunding it. They're talking about not making it as, shrinking down the police force, which I think is a good choice in certain areas because, as I said, the over policing. The challenge is the over policing in our communities are not really helping the situation. And so there has to be a creative balance in that regard. There really does have to be a creative balance. I think we definitely need to demilitarize the police. We definitely need to do that. We've seen instances where police have shown up to cases with AR-15 rifles when, you know, not even a can of mace was necessary. So I think these are the things where we're talking about defunding and in some cases disarming the police in certain areas. I think that's a conversation we have to have, and we're going to have.
Let me step in a little bit. And that, David, I'll let you go because you look like you have a thought. When we're talking about, as I know, defunding, so we got to think about who's providing the money for the police department, and we know that comes from, you know, the city manager, the commissioners. You know, they the ones that guide it, and we're thinking about their budget. We can't defund them without having each person or whomever look at each police department's budget. You know, you have little cities, you have some that are corporate, like the BSO that we have in South Florida. And I'm glad that we're not a part. My city, Sunrise, is not a part of BSO. I'm so glad that they're not. But we have to look at that because every city, first of all, they don't have no money. You just go through a small town, they get their money from, you know, if you run a red light or you driving too fast, you know. So if you go to town, you look at every speed limit to make sure you don't have to pay a $500 ticket just to give to the city, you know. But we think about defunding these major places like here. You know, I don't even know if any, I'll talk about that in a minute, but these major places like here, when it comes to defunding, what are we defunding? Are we defunding, make sure we're not defunding our community activities? Are we just funding they ball, you know, they police ball? You know, what is it we're defunding? So one person, Rob Payne, thank you. Defunding means allocating funds for more programming and has militarization. Yeah, I told you I got on the wrong glasses today, guys. So yeah, so that's the definition of defunding. But go ahead, David. Go ahead, because I know you do a lot within the community and you do a lot with the police station. What are your thoughts? Do you see extra money just, you know, just sitting on the table where it shouldn't be, and we just, you know, need to pick it up and give it to certain programs? Go ahead, David.
Yeah. I think it obviously the thing that he has said, the conversation about defunding police is an incredibly complex one. The scriptures make plain to us that we need authority to be able to punish criminals, right? And those who are doing wrong. That's not just a, you know, a civil thing. That's a biblical thing. It's a biblical precedent that has been given us by He who has infinite wisdom, God. And so there is a need for cops, and not just for cops to sit around, but for cops to arrest criminals. That's important, and that is needed. And yet, what we know is that our criminal justice system, our policing, is it's been born out of an incredibly oppressive ideology. If we just look back, right, to the formation of our police system, what we'll find is that, again, I'll just say it lightly, it was birthed out of, right, like vigilante kind of things that targeted specific people. It's just the reality. And so how do you go about repairing, if you would, something that was birthed broken, right? Like how do you go about doing it? Well, one of the things we know is that it don't never happen easily. But that most often it has to be forced. And so when we start talking about defunding, we're talking about forcing change, causing change to happen, and not just politicking until whenever it does happen. So I think that there is a real place, one, for yes, policing, but two, also for forcing a just change to policing. But an example of that, I think we find, and I'm hoping and praying that we'll see more of this talked about nationally. But a good case study is the police department in Camden, New Jersey. Camden, New Jersey is often been cited as one of the most dangerous cities in America. I got family there in the church planting world as well as biological family. Very just difficult area over the years. And I want to say in 2008 or something like that, they just found it needed reform. They needed to do something about it. They got somebody new in office, and he pushed more community policing and a complete overhaul to their city's policing. And it went from one of the deadliest cities to a city that is fairly safe. And it happened because they said we need to move from a punitive style of policing to more of a guardian style of policing, where we're guarding our neighborhoods, we're protecting our neighborhoods, we're loving our neighborhoods. And I think that does have to start with having your own people policing and the authority. And nobody just gonna come into my house and be the authority of my house. If somebody just try to walk in my house and be the authority, I'm gonna have a problem with that. I'm gonna push back against that. I'm gonna fight. I'm not gonna take your orders too easily in my crib, right? It's a whole different story though when it's somebody from the crib who's the authority in the crib, who's giving discipline, creating boundaries, etc. And so I think the rhetoric around the defunding of the police, we need to bring some wisdom to it. You said something earlier about being excited about how many young people are stepping out and leading this movement. And I think that's incredible. But I also think the scripture would speak to, we need the power of the young people pushing this thing, but then we need the wisdom of some elder folks, some seasoned folks.
Right. Absolutely. Get knowledge. Yeah.
Help, right? Bring health and stability. And so we got to do both things. So for instance, last Sunday, me and my congregation, we went and marched and protested and shouted all that kind of stuff on the street. And then this weekend, we were in-house and I preached a sermon on emotional health, right? How we gonna win if we ain't right within? We're fighting for causes like just causes and all this kind of stuff. But if we ain't doing too well inside, all we're gonna do is we're gonna change white supremacy for black and brown supremacy. It's gonna be just as unhealthy if I'm not doing all right. And so we need the power of the young folk, but we need the wisdom of more seasoned folk. And so yes, we need policing, but we need to force change in that system.
All right. So with the defunding, because people think that because if you do defund, that brings more economics to you, and right now, one of the most important things in everything that they're doing, because you keep hearing the saying, racism is economics, so it's like I could make a living off of racism, and right now we're looking for a lot of bills to be changed. They just had this big, on TV, the big, speaker Pelosi and all speaking in regards to some of the changes that they wanted to make, but I ain't see any of that benefited us. I saw some changes, that was good. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But what about the economic part of it? When it comes to our people, because how can it help you? You have people like Johnson from BET. He proposed some type of reparation for us, when it comes to land. And I thought it was a great idea, rather than, the coins or money itself. What is it for us? Because I feel like this is the best opportunity for all of us, to decide what we're going to do, what's necessary to be done when it comes to economics. It's like we hold that in our hand, but it's a matter of being strategic in where we're putting our dollars. You got a lot of people right now that's creating these Facebook groups, go to these black restaurants, go to these black businesses, establishments, go to black owned, we buy black.com, register your business there. We eat black.com, I don't know, but something like that. That's good and everything, but is it really enough? Let me see what one of the viewers have to say. Yeah, economic empowerment is the elephant in the room. Absolutely, no
It,
one wants to really talk about it, you know. But
it is.
everybody, go ahead. You got like 2 minutes each. Go ahead.
It is. But you mentioned two things that unfortunately been, and y'all kill me if I'm wrong, have been a problem from black people, and that's supporting each other with the same uh leniency, with the same I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for. Uh we don't, for us, when we do support a black business, if it's wrong one time, we blast it everywhere. We can go to a Red Lobster and it wasn't right, and we'll go back. We don't give black businesses a chance to fail or get it right, and so we don't support each other, in my opinion, with the same level as we support other businesses. That's number one. And number two, because we've had this issue in our church, in our community. Anybody that's going to our church knows that one of our visions for our community is a credit union. And one of the people, and I called them out on it, when we talked about the credit union, one of my members said, basically, if they see a teller, if they know the teller, they don't want the teller to know their business, all this kind of stuff. Just what I say, ignorance. And so I said to her, so you mean to tell me, so I said to her, you mean to tell me we get a credit union and you want me to get foreigners, white people, just people that don't look like us to work, and to tell them that's what you prefer, versus, hey, let's get a credit union, let's employ, let's pull our dollars together. We're not able to think like that. And I'm not saying that we can't get better at it, but as a pastor, I've seen it happen over and over again. And unfortunately, the other people know that about us. And so they know that when it's really time to pull our economics together, we're not going to do it, because we're all going to be crabs in a bucket. But the only way we're going to get this thing right is that we have to have our own banks. We have to have our own institution. We have to have our own credit unions, so that we don't have to worry about the disparity. We don't have to worry about banks not giving us money because of the color of our skins. We have the economic power to do it. We are the biggest consumers in America, although we make the least amount of money. And so this is our time to make it happen. This is our time to get it done. That's my spiel.
Anybody else?
I think you're right, Pastor A. You definitely made some great points. But I heard someone say, when we mentioned the crabs in a barrel mentality.
I think I don't know, they went out. They may be frozen.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It must be him. I can
Oh,
hear
okay. Oh, I heard someone once say, I wish this was my original thought, but it's not, so I won't take credit. But they said, when you talk about the crabs in a barrel mentality, don't talk about the crabs bringing each other down. Talk about who put them in the barrel. And I thought I said, oh, that's good. Because when we talk about economic empowerment and supporting one another, we also have to go back to the mentality that we have been taught is white ice colder. Because in our history classes, all we learn about is the history of the majority. All we learn about is the legacy of majority. So it's already been proven in Brown versus Board of Education that our little black boys and girls were pointing to white dolls and saying that they were better, because that was all they were exposed to. So now we have to go above and beyond and even pay extra to find brown and black dolls for our children. So now when they grow up and they become adults and they want to do business, they feel like, well, I want to do the best business. I want to make sure I get the best for my children. So then subconsciously, that white ice is colder comes back. And all of a sudden we say, instead of having one bad experience with a black business, it's all black businesses. But no one's ever called out Walmart for their rude, nasty lack of customer service and said, those white people, I'll never go back again. Why is that?
Absolutely.
Why is it that we can have one bad experience with a white person, but when we have a bad experience with a black person, it's all of us? Because that same racism that we struggle with, that we fight with, we've also been taught to embrace. So now we're not only fighting outwardly, we're fighting inwardly and trying to mesh through. What is this? How do I handle this? How do I support myself and uplift my children while still fighting for equality when I'm taught that I am less than? And on some level, whether micro or macro for different people, because people believe it in different ages, different phases. We're not even gonna go to what level Candace Owen believes it, but they believe it's true. Most people believe it's true because most people nowadays are looking for validation anyway. So that's why you hear even our Black and brown artists talk about crossing over. Because once they've crossed over, they now have received white validation. So that means you're a greater artist. There are so many written artists who never crossed over. I got a couple of them, independent artists, but they never resonated with a white audience. So they say, oh, well, you're not as successful. Lil Wayne is Lil Wayne because white people said, oh, yeah, he's good. But we've been saying he was good. We've been celebrating him. So unfortunately, that mentality has affected our economics. Along with some other
stuff. Can I say one thing? Right. Can I say one thing before anybody say anything else? Also, you were talking about the dolls. Now, these dolls are our children because when we get a little couple dollars, we move certain places. So now we move, and I ain't talking about me. So we move or we live in certain neighborhoods. And guess what? That's what our kids see. So now majority of their friends, they the black kid, are that a white Caucasian. Now their friends or their parents may do different things. So they see economics differently. So I always try to teach my daughter, and I just go personal. When we do stuff, we have our weekend where we do black business. We don't do too much eating out, but we just do black business. And we go to black businesses and we spend our dollars and we be kind. And my daughter would say the last time we went somewhere, it was a little expensive. She said, Mommy, would we know if we didn't come to a black business, what we normally pay this amount for this food? And I said, no. I said, but you don't go and shout it to the world. You go to those people. If they don't have a survey or whatever, you go to them to let them know about your dollar. You know what I'm saying? How could they? Maybe they don't know. Maybe they can get more people. But I wouldn't go past out. Oh, I went here and food. Look at this food. Look at this food. Posting it and such and such. And we know that we charge a little bit more because one, we're having less people come. Two, it may be the location. A lot of different factors may come with it. But just don't announce it to the world and try to get our kids, especially those ones that are in different places. We have to get them. I'm gonna tell y'all another story. This is funny here. So my son, my niece, she died. So she invited him to go to Six Truck Festival. This was some years ago, and he come calling me on the phone. Mother, come, I'm thinking, well, what happened? He was like, I don't know. It's just like a lot of people, just, how after the fact and people just was in Franklin Park and it was crowded and he wasn't used to it. He just felt a place. He just felt like this. So I always say, even for those ones that have those dolls, Teresa, we still have to, that's why I like, certain places, we still have to keep our kids around their culture. I wouldn't expect you, David, not to have your kids that are growing up around their Latin culture, because it's important to them not to think to themselves as, because a lot of Latin people say they're white, so they're black, just Latin, but you know how it go, but yeah, just keep it real with them. But go ahead, I just had to get on that.
Can I just speak real quick just to that?
Go ahead.
At some point, we got to be very honest. There's a human issue we have, right? And this human issue is one where we are more concerned with ourselves than we are with anybody else. We're more concerned with our winning than with our people's, our communities, or our communal winning, right? And so there's this. I want to survive more than I want my community to thrive situation that we all deal with. And And if we're honest, I mean, I think of even I think of churches. All right, I'm a church guy, I'm a pastor, all this kind of stuff. And man, listen, some of the people I hear speaking sometimes the strongest about issues of race and justice and all this kind of stuff are in white churches, right? And so now, listen, I'm all for multiculturalism, all for diversity, all this kind of stuff here, right? But until we build our own stuff, we ain't never gonna see anybody else take our stuff seriously. Of course, our children are feeling awkward and funny and all this kind of stuff. If the place where you spend most of your time at, if the place you're most invested in, if the leaders that you're most influenced by and that you serve under are all white, of course we're gonna have them issues. And so I say all that to say, man, we got to do better of being intentional, and we got to be willing to invest right here in our own communities. But we got to do that beyond our rhetoric and the words we say. So yeah, I'm gonna spend a little more money to eat black or to eat brown because I'm not just concerned with me surviving. I'm concerned with my community thriving. And here's the reality. I can survive right now, but if I don't make sure that my community thrives, it's going to be a day where I can't take care of myself no more, or my kids can't take care of themselves no more. And the reality of the fact of the matter is this: the folk who are going to support them, for the most part, ain't going to be somebody from outside of their community. For the most part, ain't going to be somebody from someone else's community. But for the most part, it's going to be their community. So I need for our community to thrive and not just for me to survive, because one day at some point, my survival is going to be dependent on my community thriving. And so I need to invest intentionally. I need to make my community, I need to invest my time, my intelligence, my service in my community. And again, I'm going to say the whole church thing again. Listen, for most of us, or a lot of people, the place where we offer most of our service is at our local churches. The place where we offer most of our intelligence and scholarship, etc., is at our local churches. And so if we don't help build our local churches, then what happens? So I'll just leave that there because I don't want to get in trouble on the night.
How do we do that if we're
you might hit a button with Pastor A with the door. Go ahead.
No. How do we do that and do as Tanisha said that many people have done, which is move out of the communities in which we're trying to help? That is, my question is, what if every successful Black person would have stayed in the community that were raised in? Everybody gets successful and they leave the area. And so we don't like to talk about that, but it's absolutely true. We've left the areas. Now, some of us go back, but we've taken our resources, we've taken our money, we've taken our PhDs that we've earned and the raises that we've taken it to areas that don't support us. And so a lot of successful people are guilty of taking the wealth out of the community. How do we deal with that if we're going to be honest?
By being honest.
And you're right about it. And I yeah, by being honest. And that's why I say you're right about it, because that's about all you can say, by being honest. You're absolutely right about it, because I know a lot of people right now are thinking what's going on, because I'm one of those people about certain things that you do, or churches or anything and things of that nature, because people say, oh, they want a Black Wall Street, we should have a Black Wall Street. Well, guess what, they were all in one city, in one place. You understand what I'm saying? So are we willing to go in one city, one place? Does it have to be where we grew up? Is it somewhere that's new? We have new, as part of the preparation as far as getting land, that land, can we make that? One of the things that I want to talk about, how our voting matters, is that, this just somebody was giving me this idea, and I thought, wow, that's a great idea. I just thought about it, but they made a whole lot of sense of what they were saying about voting, of having our own independence. Voting. We don't want to be Republican. be Democrat. You know, a lot of us are independent anyway. We want our own party. Come to us when you have something. You know what I'm saying? Us feeling like we just have to settle. You know, I like Joe Biden, but it's like right now, okay, that's all we got. And he made that statement with his, you know, he thought he was joking. I thought he was telling a joke, but whatever the case may be. Um, you know, saying, you know, you ain't black, but basically saying I'm all you got. Now, what you gonna do? You gonna roll with me, you know, or you gonna roll, you know, with Trump? But I don't want that. I want us to be, you know, our own independence in the middle, where you saying, okay, well, what you have to offer, you know, what you have to offer, and you know, someone was telling me, and it made a whole lot of sense. You know, I want us to vote, and we must vote. Believe me, a vote without one person is a vote for the other person. Whatever your party is a vote
Right.
for the other person. So we have to vote. We have to make our voice. No, I don't care what your party is. You still got to vote, but you know, let's get 45 up out there. You know, because he's basically saying he don't care nothing about y'all. He don't care nothing about us. You know, it is what it is. The other day on Twitter, as a matter of fact, yesterday, he wrote "Law and Order." That was his Twitter. Law and Order. All this
Yeah,
disrespect. Like, what
we need
war?
a black party. I just think we need more parties to respect us because there's not enough black people to
Yeah.
get anybody
Mm-hmm.
elected.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Don't have to be black. Yeah.
Right. We need to be, you know, independent, but where there is an independent party, but we need to just have
Yeah.
we need to get to the point where all parties respects the black person. I think that's the only card we have to play. Which is, you know, that's why I lean to where I lean. I lean, depending on what the topic is, I may lean more Republican than Democrat. I lean more Republican on a whole lot of issues. Honestly.
Can I say
Yeah. We
something?
need them old black pastors too. Yeah. Go ahead.
What you say, Tanisha? Oh Lord. Um, I think the it's not a easy one answer for the community support. I think we have to remember that everybody did not support Martin, Dr. King, I should say, out of respect, excuse me. Everybody did not support Dr. King. Everybody did not support Malcolm X. He had to move with what he had. I think the false narrative is that we need all of us or none of us. And that's just not true. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm proud of my hometown and I go back whenever I can. I'll support in whatever way I can. However, even Jesus, since we got two pastors on here, had to leave his hometown before he could start his ministry. There are certain pathologies in Louisville, Kentucky that I didn't realize were pathologies until I left. And then I said, wait, this isn't normal. This isn't how we should be doing things. It wasn't until I actually left and began to pursue graduate studies that I would come back and say, listen, here's what I learned. And they would say, no, you're not going to be nobody but little T. You're not going to be nobody but such and such's little sister, or the nicknames that I had growing up. So even as Dr. Teresha Leah earned PhD, not honorary, did nobody give it to me, I earned it. I still go back to the hood I grew up in. I'm just saying, y'all, I don't mean it, you know, but I did earn this and had 3 kids. But anyway,
you, girl. That's right.
I go back to the hood, and
The
there's
bills
people who
gonna
say you
tell
can
us.
never teach me anything because I knew you when you were 6. Like, what does that got to do with anything? You can never, and that's okay. You know why? Because I've learned that those aren't my people. The problem is we have sometimes have those interactions, and we now have labeled the entire Black race, and that's just not fair. It's just not fair. Yes, I now reside in a different part of the United States. I'm no longer in Kentucky, but I'm still doing what I can in raising my children, in being a part of my community. I'm still connected. And I think if we just be responsible and do what we can where we can, it wouldn't be a matter of, all right, well, you left the hood. Because the truth of the matter is, in a lot of cities, particularly older African American cities, they're tearing them down.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Regentrification and things like, they're tearing them down. They're kicking grandma and grandma out of the house they lived in for 30 years and saying we're turning it into a dog park. So I don't think it's always about geography as much as it is about passion and purpose. Because the truth of the matter is, whether I am in Kentucky, Florida, Texas, California, I'm about to find some grassroots. I'm about to find somebody who agrees that Black Lives Matter, Brown Lives Matter. Because listen, I go with both Black and Brown, because when I came to Florida, everybody was telling me where I was from, and it was not Kentucky. And they didn't even, I actually had a discussion with an African-American man who told me I was not Black, and that I needed to go check and see because I looked like I could be Dominican. And I was like, sir, let's not have this conversation. He says, I don't understand why you go so hard for Black issues when I see you, all I see is European features. And I'm not going to say what I said live.
Girl, I know you gave him one. I know you gave him one. Intellectually, you gave him one.
We see it happening in Miami Gardens. You know, a lot of people move from Liberty City. They begin to move to Miami Gardens. Miami Gardens became its own city. Then Miami Gardens got a little too rough, and now some of those same people in Miami Gardens, they're now in Miramar. We keep moving, and now some of them are leaving Miramar, going out west. I mean, we keep moving, and I get what you're saying, Teresa, but I do think we have to kind of check it a little bit, because what we're seeing is a lot of people don't go back. You go back, you try. A lot of people don't go back. And I think that is the problem that we're having in our communities. If you want to leave, leave. That's everybody's prerogative. But at least go back. At least still reinvest. At least go back. Most of us, if we do go back, it's for the food. That's about all we're going back for, because the places that we move don't have the food that we like. That's just,
But Pastor A, you also have to make sure that we are gauging the level of success. Some people think just because you have reached a level of success that means you have hundreds, thousands, or even millions to give back. Some people, all they can do is come back and get a plate because they're struggling where they are and they barely made it out. So I think we have to be careful of the obligation that we put on people's shoulders to come back, because we don't know what they are coming back from.
And I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying, whenever you leave something, your money goes with you. So if you go and buy a house in Weston, all of your money is going to be spent in Weston. That is a doctor's salary, whatever that is. That's a lawyer's salary, whatever that is. That money is no longer spent in that community. And if you do that long enough, then that community is never going to be able to survive. It's never going to be able to thrive. It'll survive, but it won't thrive, because every time someone is able to change it, they spend their wealth and they place their wealth somewhere else. And I just think it happens. I'm sure it happens in all, but Black people are just notorious from having to move out of the area. That's just where we are. And I'm not putting any fault on anybody, because I can understand. Hey, you go to college, you get a PhD, you don't want to you don't want to raise a family in that environment. I get that, but it is something we've had to deal with. That's just the truth.
Sometimes in these kind of
conversations. 1 minute, David.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I think sometimes in these conversations, we don't do enough of kind of creating a dichotomy. And there's a dichotomy, I think, that exists between a place and a people, or place and people. And I think that man, it's amazing when we could get to a place where the place is diverse. And I think we enjoy the benefits of diversity. Place is important because of the significance it has historically and things like that. But I think the bigger fight is about people and our people, or people group, right? And so I think we gotta figure out what we're talking about sometimes. Are we talking about the place and wanting to see the place built up more? Or are we talking about a people and wanting to see the people built up more? I think for me, my concern for the most part is a people. I want to see a people elevated. And so wherever we are, there's no excuse we can be investing in the people. Might be hard to get to the place, but we're in South Florida. We can always get to the people. It's Black folk everywhere. It's brown folk anywhere. And my question is not so much, are you investing in a place, but are you investing in our people?
Well, that's an excellent point. If you build up the people, you'll build up the place. I agree with that. I agree with that. But a lot of people don't, and that's the challenge. They're not either one, and that's the challenge.
I want to say this. I just want people when they do come to the community, like they build houses. I don't want to say housing. They build houses or they build apartment complexes. Not to think that the people who are there are less than. They make them less than type of places. They make them, red, yellow, green, colors to identify, where they are. Don't expect that that person is a less than person. We're all for the building up of different communities, but how is it that other people can come build up, then we can't build up and take our resources? That's how we save our community. And the thing about it is, the other person or the black man with the dollar, he don't trust it. He just don't trust it there. In his mind, I'm not going to put my money, where I grew up. They're going to tear the fence down. They're going to, you just don't trust it. And that's where a lot of, that's why we don't have that many dollars when it comes to building up certain things in the neighborhood. You have people that's come buying out our neighborhood. They're buying these corner stores. They're buying these apartment buildings. They're buying these lands. They're just buying the land and holding on to maybe 5, 10 years from now. They're making a parking lot into it, They're just buying it and just holding it until then. But we have to put. I love the idea of people coming together, 5 and 10 people coming together and thinking of a project that they can do together when it comes to building or buying something in the neighborhood. I love that idea, and that's just something that we just have to do. But I'm going to go ahead and shift the gear here. So, guys, we've been home still. Some of us been home. A lot of people went to work on today. So I have to ask, by looking at movies or reading books and all of that thing, does you have a favorite book or movie? I know these preachers finna say some preacher book. Go ahead. Go ahead, David.
Nah, I'm just waiting to see what y'all gonna make up.
Thank you, David. That's what I see. You a man after my own heart. I'm like, read. You are a man after my own heart.
But what movie? What type of movie?
I got nothing.
What type of movie? What movie?
You ain't reading, Pastor D.
Now listen, I'm gonna tell you what. I'm getting ready to do a sermon series, chapter by chapter, on the Book of Acts. I'm reading a whole lot of commentaries on the Book of Acts. I don't got no free time to read nothing else. I would love to right now. I just don't have it. I've been listening to some Bible, but no, I ain't even gonna get on. How do you say it? I ain't even gonna come on here and play with y'all. I have not had time to read another book. I've been watching some Netflix though. My wife she like to binge a little bit, so I have watched Gentefied. It's about gentrification, but I guess a Mexican American perspective on it. It's funny.
Yeah, I haven't read much but the Psalms. I'm in the season of Psalms in my Bible study. That's about all I've read outside of just articles here and there. I've been able to read. I mean, this pandemic for pastors it's been crazy. We're busier now.
I know y'all have been learning. I felt like the pressure been on some people, Teresa, because some people would just get up there and throw a word, but baby, that pressure been on these pastors because they going live.
They really got to go for it now.
They want nobody sending no message saying this. They had to learn. They had to read and they had to learn. And I was like,
and be relevant.
Yeah,
and be relevant.
That's
and true. It's different. And so a lot of people think pastors, man, it's easy to say when I tell people ask me what is pastoring like and what is preaching like. I say it, and Teresa, you'll get this. It's like writing your dissertation every week. Imagine having to do that every single week from scratch. That's what preaching is.
I'm glad I've been studying, because if not, listen, the pandemic had me at the
You got to make it a lifestyle. You got to make it a lifestyle so it doesn't come crashing on you. So here's what I've been reading. I've been reading The Woke Church by Eric Mason. I've also been reading excerpts of a book that's coming out in August by a mutual friend of mine and Pastor D's, The Empowered Black Church. And I have decided to homeschool my kids. So I am creating a curriculum and reading up on Montessori's and homeschooling. So by the end of this week, I have a full curriculum for all 3 of my kids to start teaching them. So listen, I've been reading. I have cut out TV because I was like, this is just wasting my time. And I was Netflix binging. I was watching everything and Amazon TV. And I was like, okay, this is not fun anymore and it's not productive. So I've been reading a lot, and I have a whole list. I have a whole bookshelf of books that I've either bought a long time ago and never read, or books I want to reread. So yeah.
So you homeschool like permanently? You gonna homeschool permanently?
No, but for now, yeah.
Okay.
For now, maybe for the next year or 2. Ooh. Yeah. So we're building a classroom. My husband's building a classroom and everything. We're really going big for this. So
all right, praise the Lord for you, honey.
Are you taking kids?
But no, I would say.
Listen, we can talk. We can talk.
Hey, if you taking them, I come up with the money. There won't be a problem.
Now, Tanisha, I did tell you in terms of movies and whatnot, that we're excited about doing the screening on Just Mercy here in a week or so. We're going to be doing a screening and a conversation that Dr. Teresha, let me say that right. I better say that right. I ain't trying to get in trouble. I want no problem.
Especially because she earned that, doctor. She earned that.
All right, Dr. Teresha to participating with us on this. I'm excited about that. I don't know if y'all have seen it. If you haven't, you're playing. You need to see it, and if you haven't, you can come by, see it with us. Love your participation.
When is that? Is that
all right?
17th at 7 p.m.
June 17th.
Is that your project? Your personal project?
That's no, it ain't. That's Brian Stevenson.
Okay.
And what's it called? We're just gonna be showing it here at our church in Hollywood. But man, listen, I mean, it's a terrific movie, incredible film, and I think so just it speaks so much to just where we're at right now, and I think it'll educate folks. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, it was a good movie. Something that I could see again, but I love churches when they have movies. I hope y'all have popcorn for the folks. But yeah, I love
caramel popcorn.
Yeah.
All right now. Y'all
good. Caramel and the butter. That's a good thing. But before we go, guys, we want to say congratulations to all those who have graduated, to the seniors. I have seen some wonderful drive-bys. I've seen some wonderful actually ceremonies. Parents have done the whole ceremonies in their home. Made it happen, and I'm extra like that because I would have did that too, honey. I remember when somebody had a stage outside, and the chairs, for people or a couple of people in the family. They do it, make them feel special, that they earn that diploma. Right, Teresha? And Teresha, you earned that PhD. I said, yeah, honey, because of that payback gonna be seeing you earn it. When
I don't have no shame.
Yeah,
none. It took me 7 years.
Ooh.
No shame.
Okay.
That's good.
I earned it.
Yeah, you earned it.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have any announcements to make other than what we said, and what we've already talked about, besides the congratulations?
No, we have our graduation.
All right.
Fourth Saturday, June 27th, we're having our graduation for our graduates. We're going to do a ceremony at the church for all of our church graduates. So we're looking forward to that. Looking forward to returning back into the building in July. But other than that, we're just staying on the grind on social media.
Yeah, I think I'll say the same thing.
I think most churches have that July.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing. This coming Sunday, we'll be doing our public reopening or whatnot with social distancing precautions in place, and a little bit of a graduation ceremony for our students as well. Just try to do what we can to make them feel good and proud of what they've accomplished.
Both of the preachers got the red
Absolutely,
cup suit. Don't ask us what's in it though.
Sure.
Somebody hit
But
me up
yeah,
earlier about that.
but-
Just asking me about that.
Well, I got some this crystal light, so yeah. But but I did want to say that for one thing, I just want people to play a part, and what I mean by playing a part is you may not have to be that person that's out marching. You know, you may not have to be that person that's out that has a poster or anything like that, but you could play your part by giving. You know, you can play your part by joining the organizations. I can't just think of all. I can just only think of Mind Color Change, but you can think of all the different, you know, the defenders. They are different stations now. You could play your part being a listening ear to them, and also getting on their team as one of the masterminds. You know, because I'll sit and talk with them. We talk or go through different things, but I'm not marching. You understand what I'm saying? We can all play our part, even if we just do some signs and deliver them out there, you know, because chants are needed. You know, come up with some chants. We all have some type of part to play, because some people are sitting on the sideline thinking, what should I do? I want to do something. You know, that's something that you donate your funds, you know, to, because these young people are traveling to these different towns, you know, to make sure that the rules and policies and procedures are in place. You can play your part. I think I seen someone, David, that had posted, if you want to know how to start a chapter or how to start a protest, get on the line. You know, I forgot who it was. Go to Defenders page. You know, to get on the line, so we can be a part, or we can be a voice, or we can be. Because when I'm on the line, they say, "Okay, Miss Tanisha, what you got?" You know, I try not to be the person who always has something to say. You know what I'm saying? But then if it's too quiet, they say, "I know you got something to say." You know, I do have something to say. But you know, we can all be that person. You got to be like, we can be that person that can help. And that's basically, that's all I have to say. You know, you guys have been watching and listening to the Table Talk radio show. Catch us here on Mondays at 7 p.m. We will be so glad that you're here. And David, you know, we like you. We will be so glad, you know, that you guys return back. And if you have any questions or comments or any suggestions, you can send them to Table Talk Media PR at gmail.com, and we'll be more than happy to adjust it. And next week we'll have our acts where you guys can reach us. I have mine at Tanisha Simpkins ENT. You guys can follow me on Instagram. All right. Thank you guys for being a part, and you guys have a moment, guys.
Peace out.
Bless you.